So in this video, I'm going to go over some of the video games that I grew up with as a child. We're going to cover games for the Nintendo Entertainment System, the MS-DOS and Windows 95 PC, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and the Nintendo 64. To start off with, this needs no introduction. This is the original Super Mario Brothers, obviously. But I remember playing it on the original Nintendo Entertainment System at my late grandmother's house, and I just had a blast. I would play against my brother and also my late uncle. I was always Mario, and they were Luigi. And the reason I did that at the time was because my favorite color back then was red. It is now blue, in case anybody's wondering. But Super Mario 1 was just, I have really, really fond memories of this. Also, same goes for Super Mario 2. Now, Super Mario 2 is an interesting piece because, for those of you that do not know, the original Super Mario Bros. 2 was supposed to, whoops, we'll get to that in a moment, was supposed to be an extension of the original Super Mario Brothers. But when it came here from Japan, what had happened was people just weren't very happy with it. They thought it would be too hard. So they went ahead and scrambled, and they had an agreement with another publisher of a game called Doki Doki Panic. And the publisher of the people that wanted the game developed, Doki Doki Panic, owned the rights to the characters, but the rest of the game was Nintendo's. So what Nintendo did was they took the Doki Doki Panic and replaced their characters with Super Mario characters, and voila, Super Mario 2. And it's interesting to think about that because these days, if you take a look at newer Mario games, these characters like Shy Guys and Sniffits, things like POW Blocks, they're all over the place. But back then, it was like, huh? You know, it was really raising a lot of eyebrows. But it still ended up being a major success. This, excuse me, this is honestly, in my opinion, the holy grail of classic gaming, Super Mario 3. Much like Super Mario 1, my brother and I would play this on the original Nintendo Entertainment System hours. He was the only one that could get all the way to World 8 back in the day. Going back to Super Mario 2 real quick, I just wanted to highlight something. One of the memories that I have, even though this was a single-player game, was playing it on the Nintendo Advantage. The NES Advantage was essentially an analog arcade stick with two oversized buttons and a turbo function. You could probably have it in your lap, but it's not a hand-holdable. It's way too big for that. You're welcome to take a look on YouTube and on Google for NES Advantage, and you'll be able to find many videos about that peripheral. So Super Mario's 1 through 3. Another game that I remember playing fondly is Galaga. Galaga was essentially a Space Invaders clone, but the same premise. Your two ships over here on the right are your lives. You are down there on the bottom of the screen, and much like Space Invaders, you move left and right trying to kill the baddies. The levels became even more complex. One of the things that you had to, as you moved along, one of the things you had to be wary of was that some of these ships would sometimes initiate a tractor beam, and you had to beware of that because if you get caught in that tractor beam, you're done for. So, the original Donkey Kong, classic, really doesn't need any explanation, but I remember having very fond memories of this and Donkey Kong Jr., and a little interesting, for those of you who may not realize, I'll go over some trivia with you. The original Donkey Kong, as seen here, is today's Cranky Kong. And today's Donkey Kong is actually the character up there in the white shirt on top of the platform above Mario. That is today's Donkey Kong. And his father over here to the left, like I told you before, that is Cranky Kong. And in some of the Super Nintendo iterations of the franchise, which we'll get into, I'm going to cover those a little later on. He was actually giving you advice, so it was pretty cool. Dig Dug 2. Now, the strange thing about Dig Dug is that I remember playing the game, but I don't remember what the objective was. I just remember digging around like crazy. I didn't really know what I was doing. Excuse me. But really fond NES memories with this game as well. And also Burger Time. Burger Time was interesting because you had to take condiments and you were basically trying to build a burger on these plates down here on the bottom of the screen, while at the same time trying to avoid being destroyed by the condiments who didn't want to be included in your burger. So we're going to get away from the Nintendo for a little bit, and we're going to go to the PC. We're going to start out with the Blues Brothers. Now, the Blues Brothers, I want to say that I'm going to be honest with you here. I have not seen the movie. The movie obviously came out when I was very young. Too young to watch it, actually. But at the same time, the video game, this was before the Entertainment Software Rating Board, ESRB. So, back then, games were basically anything that was popular to make a quick buck. That being said, I don't know how well this translated to the movie. But the objective of the Blues Brothers game was to collect all 5 of your instruments that had gotten stolen because you had a concert that night. Now, you had 2 playable characters, Jake and Elwood. I was often Jake, and my brother was Elwood. Basically mirroring our Super Mario premise, because I was often Mario and he was Luigi. So, another game that I remember playing on the PC was Commander Keen. It was a single-player game, but it was loads of fun. It was a platformer, and you had to, in Keen 6, Aliens Ate My Babysitter, you had to stun these creatures that had stolen your babysitter, and you had to basically go and get her back before these one-eyed, what they were called bloogs, were going to have her for lunch. So you had to transverse this alien planet. You had to collect various items like a rope and a sandwich and get onto this rocket that blasted you off to a satellite location above the planet. Just wonderful, wonderful memories. Another game in the Keen series that I remember playing is Keen 4, Goodbye Galaxy. And I'm trying to remember what the story premise was. Was it? I think if you go by storyline, was it 465? I don't remember. Anyway, the objective of Commander Keen 4, Goodbye Galaxy, was to rescue these monks that were going to speak to this, what do they call it? Some sort of eternal whatchamacallit machine thing. And that's when you learn of the events of what essentially was Keen 5, and I don't know if that ever got released for the PC. But that's essentially when they were going to blow up the universe. So, just wonderful, wonderful memories. One of the memories that I have of playing this game was this character here, the yellow slug-looking thing. If you didn't stun him, then you were in trouble because he was a double duty character. By that I mean his duty would kill you because it was acidic. So if you didn't catch him, if you had a chance to use the facilities, shall we say, if you got caught in his droppings, you were dead meat. So wonderful memories of that particular game as well. This game, I remember playing it, but I don't remember what the objective was. I don't really remember too much about it other than playing it. The thing that stuck out to me about this game was that it was one of the final games that we had on the 5.5-inch physically floppy discs. This was definitely for the PC MS-DOS because that computer was an old 486, and that's what ran the software. That's what had the 5.5-inch floppy drive that was needed to run the game in the first place. But the only other thing that I really remember about this game was this level that you see before you. I think it was the basement. And the main enemy that I have memories of is this set of chattering joke teeth that were basically running around like demons trying to devour you. That isn't to say they were all fun and games per se. Unfortunately for me, math was one of the trouble subjects growing up, and so my folks, being the high investors in a good education that they were, got us this. Math Blaster in Search of Spot. You can go ahead and look on YouTube. These days, as an adult, you could beat the game in 10 to 15 minutes if you remember all the mechanics. The math is first and second grade, which was, the intent was to make math fun for young kids. And I remember having fond memories of this game. Basically, the premise is you as Blasternaut were going to go on some kind of mission, but your spaceship wouldn't start. So you send your sidekick Spot out to make repairs. And you decide to go below deck because you're basically an ass. But while Blasternaut is below deck, Spot gets abducted by this three-eyed alien that is flying around in a flying saucer, dumping garbage everywhere. Then you're basically expected to go rescue him. That was the mission assigned to you by your superior galactic commander. Excuse me. The Blaster series is actually around today as the Blaster Learning System. The Math Blaster Episode 1 was originally developed by Davidson, and I believe it is now under the Blaster Learning System nameplate is owned by a completely separate company who I've never really heard of called Knowledge Adventure. But Math Blaster 1, you basically had 4 objectives. First of all, you had to solve math problems, and once you solved them, you had enough ammo in your phaser or whatever it was kind of weapon to shoot garbage and convert the garbage into fuel. So, hey, recycling. So you loaded up the fuel, and then you went to the monster's home planet, and you had to... This is the one part that honestly confused me that I don't remember very well. But I think you had to match Blasternaut's number on his chest with the appropriate numbers to complete the equation that would then let you through and go all the way up to the top of the planet. At which point you once again completed the equation, but your obstacle this time is floating trash all over the place that could hit you in the head and knock you back down. And you had a timer with which you had to complete the equations, so you couldn't just dilly-dally. You had to get to work. The idea was you fly up into the appropriate vent that contains the number to complete the equation. So, fond memories of that game. Like I said, if you search for Math Blaster Episode 1 and search a spot, you can see a playthrough. Same goes with Math Blaster Episode 2, Secret of the Lost City. In this game, you are exposed to more complex mathematical skills such as triple-digit addition and subtraction, as well as I'm sorry, not triple-digit, like 3-number problems. For instance, 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 6 kind of thing. And I think you were exposed to some basic multiplication because I believe the age range was up to 13, so it covered through junior high school. Your first year of junior high school in the States would be 6th grade, depending on the level of difficulty. But the premise in the game was, this time, you have Spot, you're still Blasternaut, you have Spot, and you have Galactic Commander with you. This character in the lower right here on the disc is Dr. Minus, and Dr. Minus basically takes a ray gun or a missile or whatever to your ship and crashes you onto this alien planet. And you're supposed to essentially find your way off this planet that contains what is essentially the Lost City. And the secret of the Lost City was these buildings on the planet, which are the Lost City, transform into a spaceship that gets you off the planet. And then you go after Dr. Minus. This game was a bit more advanced with its 3D graphics, and just overall, just a fantastic game. I remember playing this as a child. You can again search for that here on YouTube to see a playthrough, along with Math Blaster Mystery, The Great Brain Robbery. This time, you're not Spot and Blasternaut are not even shown. Instead, you are this green character. I think his name was Rave. I actually had to look that up before doing this video. And you are after Dr. Dabble to recover the brain of a math Olympian. This was honestly one of the more creepy games because it was sort of a Halloween kind of thing, but it did expose you to the skills of pre-algebra, including complex problem solving. There were a lot of story problems in this game. And a lot of just overall more advanced number concepts. I think this was meant for later middle school, maybe early high school, I don't remember. But I remember a lot of crazy characters like Scales, who's a fish, Frankenbunny, who is a cross between Frankenstein and a giant yellow bunny. There was this equation wall you had to solve where it was basically order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, that kind of thing. So if you didn't get it, you got sucked down into the basement. And at this point, you had to deal with, I believe the character's name was Granny, and what she did. And this was a real godsend for me, because, like I told you before, math was one of the subjects that I had issues with in school. I've got it now, but back then it was, So what Granny did was she broke down the problems into segments as to what does the problem ask you to find, what is the relevant information, what is not relevant, what kind of items are you looking at, and then finally how to solve the problem. So that is the Math Blaster Mystery. Again, search on YouTube. You can take a look at a playthrough of that. Now we're coming back to the Nintendo systems, and will be for the rest of the video. Donkey Kong's Country, Country 2, and Country 3. Wonderful games, especially Donkey Kong Country 2. I've got that on my Virtual Console on the Wii, and I've got Donkey Kong Country on the Game Boy Advance, but the originals were just, they can't be beat. You can go and take a look at playthroughs of those. I think what really got me on Donkey Kong Country 2 was the map music. I'm just that kind of person. I just loved that map music. You can search YouTube for the Donkey Kong Country 2 map theme. Donkey Kong Country 3 was playable, except for a problem that was encountered later on. Somehow the game had been switched over from English to French. And from that point on, I honestly could not play the game because I do not remember. I still have the game. In fact, all of these games I still have. The only problem is, like with the older PC games, they obviously won't run on modern hardware, or at least they won't without the assistance of some major emulation tricks that I honestly do not have time to pursue because of my studies. But the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64 games you'll be seeing a little later on are still intact. We just need to get the systems out, plug them in, and go for it. Super Mario World actually came with our Super Nintendo. We had the mini version, not the original, which actually worked out better for us because we were hard up for space. But Super Mario World came with it. I also have fond memories of playing Super Mario World in a hotel room, and I don't remember where we were going. I think we were going up to my summer house, but they had Super Mario World, and I remember begging my folks to let me play it. Just wonderful times. Super Mario Kart. A lot of the retro courses, in case anybody out there is curious, a lot of the retro courses in the more modern Mario Kart games, this is where they came from, Super Mario Kart. This is where it all began, with the gameplay mechanics of the battle modes, being able to throw your Koopa shells at people, being able to play as multiple characters, Koopa, Bowser, Donkey Kong Jr., who is again now is Donkey Kong, Peach, Luigi, everyone, just wonderful memories. I mentioned earlier that the original Super Mario Bros. 2 never made it to the United States. Well, it did in Super Mario AllStars as Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. I remember a very close friend of mine had Super Mario AllStars on his Super Nintendo, and every time I would go over, we would play that. Compared to the original, I like the original better, but that doesn't mean I don't have appreciation for this new one. It's Super Mario 1, 2, 3, and the Lost Levels, cleaned up with sound and graphics, and just wonderful, wonderful game. And now we get into the Nintendo 64. Super Mario 64. Honestly, one of the best games on the Nintendo 64. I remember having a wonderful time going around the various worlds, collecting the stars. And in my save file, with my brother's help, if you're watching this, thank you so much for that. But I've got all 120 stars, and I'm able to go in and get the 100 lives and just play around. Like I said, I've still got the game. I just need to dig out the system from storage and plug it into a compatible TV set, and off we go. Another game that may not be so well known is Top Gear Rally. I have an extreme fondness for racing games, and this was one of the very first that we got for the Nintendo 64, was Top Gear Rally. I remember, I never actually beat all the tracks. I'm going to be honest with you. This is the one game that I remember using Game Genie on the most. Or not Game Genie, Game Shark. The Game Shark adapter took the form of a Nintendo 64 cartridge. You put the adapter in and you plugged the game into the adapter, and what happened was you would enter cheat codes. Well, I managed to enter the cheat codes to completely unlock everything, including some secret vehicles, including a beach ball and a football helmet, and all the courses. So it was a cool game. This game needs no introduction. Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, probably one of the best games of all time. I remember playing my own file as well as watching my brother play, and he also helped me out. So again, thank you for that if you're watching this. Same with Zelda Majora's Mask. We happened to be one of the lucky ones when it came out to get the holographic cartridge. So very, very happy about that. And also, this is one of the other reasons why if there's ever remake announcements for these games, I am just super pumped because it reminds me of my childhood. Donkey Kong 64, this was another instance where we got the rare cartridge. In this case, it was banana yellow. But just wonderful, wonderful fond memories of that game. Very similar to Banjo-Kazooie. The two, I think, were based on the same game engine. But the one thing that I didn't like about Donkey Kong 64 was that character. Was it Lanky? No, Lanky was... Let's see. Lanky was the one over on the top right who kind of looks like he's a circus clown. Chunky! I think that was his name. Chunky Kong. He was just obnoxious. I'm sorry, but he was just obnoxious. Mario Kart 64. Again, going back to those retro stages. More of those came from here. Wonderful battle mode, 4 players. And if you completed if you got 100%, it reversed the start screen and you got, what was it? I think it was a mirror mode for the courses. So really, really cool. And last but not least was Beetle Adventure Racing. Back in 1998, the new Beetle came out and it was a firestorm of press and anticipation because the Beetle had not been sold since the 60s and 70s. So this was the revitalizing of an icon. Well, Electronic Arts saw this opportunity and made one of the best racers, I think, for the Nintendo 64. Similar to Mario Kart 64 in that you had a battle mode. In this case, it was a Beetle battle. And you would collect ladybugs. But that was not the main core of Beetle Adventure Racing. The main core of Beetle Adventure Racing was leaving the road behind. It was an open sandbox racing environment where, yes, you had to complete the laps, but the fun was in finding the shortcuts and unlocking things like the alien beetle and the police beetle and the chrome beetle. Just wonderful, wonderful times. I do apologize. I know this video has been a little long, but just something I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.